Hi, and welcome to the 9th module in this self-help program for social anxiety. We hope that you've started working on exposure exercises and reality checking your catastrophe thoughts. In this video, we want to give you a quick summary of the program and address some common challenges that may arise in the process. Let's start with a summary. Number 1. Social anxiety is really a normal and healthy process. The problem is when this process becomes too sensitive, giving it too much power. Number 2. Usually, social anxiety is reduced over time as one gets reality checks, where the catastrophes your mind envisions doesn't come to fruition. But in some cases, the social anxiety isn't reduced over time. This is most often the result of 3 processes: avoidance of social situations, self-focus, and safety behaviors. Number 3. Exposure therapy is a tough but effective way to work on your anxiety. This entails actively seeking out the anxiety in planned sessions, giving your brain a chance to reality check the anxiety reaction and the social catastrophes you envision. Anxiety fades with repeated exposure. Number 4. During exposure, it's critical that you do not initiate safety behaviors to reduce your fears, as this can negate the whole exercise. It's better to try to increase the anxiety to maximize the learning process. Number 5. The mantra of acceptance inward, focus outward is a helpful tip when facing your fears. That's easier said than done, but will get easier with exercise. You can gradually change your relationship with your anxiety from something that you desperately fear and try to push away to something that you find unpleasant, but that you can still accept and let go of. Fighting with the anxiety monster will not get you anywhere. In addition to this summary, we want to look at some typical challenges many people experience while using this self-help program. Challenge number 1. Exposure is just too scary. This is a really common challenge. Exposure is scary by definition, and many find that they can't get started as a result. If you've experienced this, then we recommend that you start way down on your anxiety hierarchy. Starting low means that you can build up a little confidence before moving upwards. Maybe it's walking around the block, taking the bus one stop, calling a friend, going to a mall for 5 minutes. Everything is better than nothing. Challenge number 2. I cannot bring myself to do exposure because the exercises seem so unnatural. Some don't get started with exposure because it seems so unnatural and strange. For example, it's very strange to forget your PIN code on purpose or ask for milk in a clothing store. This might seem totally off and not relevant for your daily life. Here it's important to remember the rationale behind the exercise. If your social anxiety is related to appearing foolish, then you need to promote this feeling to reality check your catastrophe thoughts and anxiety. To do this, you have to appear as a genuine fool. Act like you think a fool would act and see what happens. It is also important to distinguish what you do when you're engaging in exposure and how you want to live your life in general. Exposure is a time-limited exercise that can positively affect the rest of your life. Challenge number 3. The social anxiety comes back between the exposure. Unfortunately, this is quite common. This is because our brains give fear a top priority. Better safe than sorry is our brain's motto. This means that a reduction in anxiety is not easy. The brain can turn back on the anxiety and make it difficult to remove it. If you experienced your social anxiety coming back over and over again, consider increasing the intensity and frequency of your exposure. Aim for over-learning, in other words. You should also be aware of your safety strategies while doing exposure. If it doesn't feel awful, then it isn't doing you any good. Strange as that might sound. Challenge number 4. I find it hard to remember all the information given in the program. We give lots of information in this program. Too much really. Therefore, we really recommend that you watch these videos multiple times. We often find that the rationale behind the advice gets clearer with repetition, especially if you engage in exposure between viewing the videos. We also recommend that you focus on the homework assignments, as these are designed to engage you with important advice. Challenge number 5. My exposure never goes according to plan. Sometimes we have a nice plan for exposure, but then out of nowhere, the circumstances change and you're left with a new social situation that you didn't plan for. The reason for this is that other people are very unpredictable and they will do as they please, leaving you with a difficult task of planning exposure around this unpredictability. One option is to plan with unexpected turns of events in mind. For example, by planning to expose by talking about the weather with a colleague who's sitting next to me in the lunchroom, compared to talking to Sarah in the lunchroom. Challenge number 6. I can't find the time to follow through with the exposure exercises. Here you'll need to set your priorities. If your daily life is very hectic with little time dedicated to yourself, then you'll need to actively prioritize working on your social anxiety if you want to see a positive change. One tip is to think of these exercises as something you do for yourself, but that can positively impact your whole social circle, including both friends and family. This is because freeing yourself from anxiety makes the activities surrounding friendship, work, parenthood and matrimony easier and more engaging. You can be a good example for people around you. That was all the challenges we have included in this module. We hope you got some tips that can help you with your efforts. You can find a link to the next module in the video description. See you later.